Welcome back to the channel. So welcome back for another video of Cinema vs. Reality. I can't remember what episode number we're up to, but welcome back. So today we're going to be going through the movie Flight. Now, Flight came out in 2012 and is loosely, can't say it's based off of. The flight sequence is loosely based off an actual accident that happened back in 2000, and that happened with an Alaskan Airlines flight. So what I'm going to do is go through this video, go through the bits and pieces, and we'll go through our normal 4 different topics, which is the flight sequence, which for this, there's not a lot of it, but I'll go through where we start and finish. We've got the accident sequence, the wreckage, and then we've got the survivability, which is at the end. So there are 4 topics that we're going to go through today. So let's begin with the movie Flight.
How can anybody sleep like that?
I don't know.
And how long has Sleeping Beauty been out?
26 minutes.
It's oddly specific that he knew it was exactly 26 minutes. But I don't know. I can already, like, this first officer always gave so much tension being on the flight. Could be just because of Denzel Washington's character in the movie. But yeah, a little bit of tension there.
We're gonna start descending any second now.
Well, it looks like you'll need to wake him up.
Southjet 227, Atlanta Center, descend and maintain flight level 300.
Descend and maintain flight level 300, Southjet 227.
Okay, so here you see the first officer responding to air traffic control. They've said to go down to flight level 300, which is 30,000 feet, and the pilot is at this point in time setting the altitude to 30,000 feet for the autopilot. So that means they do not have to descend the aircraft. The autopilot will do it in a steady pace.
Whoa, whoa.
What is that?
The elevator feels really stiff, sir.
All right, don't force it. All right, Margaret, get everybody strapped in. Get everybody strapped in tight.
Okay, so you've got Denzel Washington's character, the captain, telling the flight attendant to make sure everyone's strapped in. Normal procedures because you don't know what's actually happening. You've got the first officer who's saying that the elevator feels stiff and that controls pitch, so that's your nose movement up and down.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Turn left hard, sir.
Power back! Power back!
Okay, so you can see here that they're just passing through 30,000 feet. So the altimeter will change as you're dropping. So this is that point where they originally had set that autopilot. The autopilot will not be on at this point in time purely because the pilots have essentially pulled the control column and disconnected the autopilot. They are flying in an MD-80. So the MD-80s, like there's nothing special to them. They are very old aircraft, so displays have changed in time, so it might not be exactly the same, especially in it's now 14 years since this movie came out.
ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelt now. Fasten your seatbelt, security now.
I have no control on my side. No control on all, sir.
Lost hydraulics. Center, this is Southjet 227. We've lost our hydraulics and feels like our pitch control.
So it is very common for pilots to, thought that it's a loss of hydraulics, and that is because depending on the aircraft, your flight controls can be essentially moved by the hydraulics of the system. So in this instance where they're thinking, okay, well, we've lost our pitch, there's something wrong with our elevator, it is understandably trying to figure out what possibly could happen. Hydraulics is probably the main thing that you would think there might be an issue with.
Southjet 227, Atlanta Center,
Turn on the backup pumps, the backup
hydraulics
pumps.
and pitch control.
That is affirmed. We are in an uncontrolled...
Now, turning up the backup pumps are the backup pumps for the actual hydraulics, hopefully to try and help alleviate this issue if possible. But in this instance, I'm not sure if it actually does anything.
Southjet 227, Atlanta, say your intentions. Are you declaring an emergency?
Everybody's belted in. Are we going clear?
Belted in. We're getting everybody in brace positions. Yes, that is affirmed. We are in a dive. We are in a dive.
Now, so you've got the head flight attendant coming in saying everyone has been strapped in. The pilot coming back saying, we need everyone in the brace positions because we don't actually know what's happening. We can't regain control at this very point in time, or they've got minimal control. And then that's when they finally relay any information to ATC. Now, this comes into the whole aviate, navigate, communicate sort of style that pilots are taught to fly. So you always aviate first, try and figure out what's going on, figure out if you've got control of your aircraft, make sure everyone's strapped in, ready for whatever situation you're in. You navigate, figure out where you're going to do, what your plan is, and then you communicate what's happening. So as you can see, Denzel Washington's character in this instance, he's very calm, which is what you expect, passing on that information, but all that information to ATC is done after he's had the conversations with that flight attendant.
We have lost vertical control. We're gonna need drag. I want you to throw out everything you got. The speed brakes, the gear, everything.
Here, speed brake. Brace position. Head down. Head forward. Head down. Head forward.
Gears down. I don't think hydraulics is the problem, sir.
We need to.
Okay, so they're passing now through 22,000 feet. You hear the first officer say, the gear's down, I don't think it's hydraulics. And this is normally because the hydraulic system that is used by both the flight controls and the landing gear is the same. So if the landing gears come down and locked into position, you would assume that you have some sort of hydraulic pressure still going through the system, so therefore it's not an issue with your hydraulics. So they're slowly carving through trying to figure out what the possibilities are. So they still understand there's something wrong with the elevator because their pitch is nose down, but they're unsure how that's happening.
Dump the fuel. Do it!
All right.
All right, so here they're dumping the fuel from the aircraft. This is a precautionary. I'm assuming it's precautionary. So it means they have the less amount of fuel when they crash land, essentially. So he's preparing for the fact that he's got no control over this aircraft, and he wants the least amount of chance of them going up in flames, would be my guess.
Atlanta Center, this is Southjet 227. We're in an uncontrolled dive descending out of 21,000.
So right here, you can see on the screen, there is the flight control unit or flight display. So that is showing the aircraft with wings level and the nose pitched down. So the brown means your point, that's how far pointing to the ground you are. Blue is sky. And that line across is like your horizon. So as you can see, there were about 15 degrees nose down. It's slowly coming back up to about 10. On the left-hand side, you've got your speed in knots. And on the right-hand side, you've got your current altitude. So the pilots have all that information in one. You can see that the speed is kind of starting to go into that red sort of margin. And so those red dots can be set by the pilot depending on what phase of flight they're in, if their flaps are out. And all that is done specifically so that you don't put the aircraft into a configuration which it can't handle. Now, we already know that he's asked to put the speed brakes on, put everything out possible to create drag. So that's where that red line is probably coming up in this situation.
Feet, we're declaring an emergency. We dumped our fuel. We got a jam stabilizer or something. We need a block of altitude to work the problem and are heading to the nearest airport.
Southjet 227, Hartsfield, Jackson
Dump the
Airport.
flaps,
It's
dump
12
the
o'clock
flaps.
and 20 miles.
Just do it, do it, 30
Turn
degrees.
left, heading 315.
315, we'll try our best. All right, that bought us a little time. Now
All right, so what they've done is they've dumped the flaps to 30 degrees, which means they've created more drag and slowed the aircraft down. It's then brought the nose back up. And what he means is it's given them a bit of time. It's essentially slowed them down, slowed their descent. So they've got more time before they're pretty much near the ground. At this point, they're at, 19,000 feet. So they've got a little bit of time and a little bit of margin to try and figure out what they're planning on doing.
we got to revert to manual control. Your side first.
Okay, got it. Nothing, no control. Oh no, we're diving again.
Okay, so he said to try the manual control to the first officer. Now, in the MD-80s, I don't actually think that manual control little lever is actually in those aircraft. It's sort of like a concept they've taken from another aircraft style and stuck it in there. What that would generally do, it would mean that if there is an issue with any of the flight controls, it actually splits the system up so that if there is any sort of jam, sort of like half of the controls become available to you. yeah, I've never had to actually deal with investigating any of them, so that's the most I know about them. But I'm like 95% sure the MD-80s do not have that actual bit in them.
All right, okay. Look, I can't let go of my side. See if you can reach my side.
I can't reach it, sir.
No, stay strapped in, stay strapped in. Margaret! Margaret!
We're out of 15,000.
All right, just relax. Calm down. Get strapped into the jump seat there. I need you.
Okay, so so far it's really good to see that the captain has said to his co-captain, like, don't undo your seatbelt. If you are pitched over in a dive, to get your seatbelt back on again would be really, really hard. So the fact that he's going like, don't do it, it's not worth it. He's then taken the opportunity to get that flight attendant in to help with the scenario, stuck him in the jump seat. So the crew resource management, or CRM, in this instance, you've got a captain who's very calm, a first officer who's not quite as calm, but you've also got them bringing in the opportunity to have a flight attendant help them. So now they've got multiple people to help with scenarios, so that because the pilot is the only one that actually has control in this instance, and the first officer can't actually reach that side, you've then got the flight attendant there to help with that scenario. So the CRM in this is actually really good in the sense of he's taken what resources he has to try and make the situation as easy as possible.
Do something for me.
We're at 12-9.
Southjet 227 Atlanta, fuel dump is approved.
Thank you.
Cammy, sit back down!
Okay, so you've now got the flight attendant that was at the rear of the aircraft has seen this overhead compartment open and decided to get out of the seat and walk to close it. I don't know why you would even attempt this. Your nose down, like, just hold on. Everyone should be strapped in. They're going to open those compartments. They're not like the strongest things in the entire world. So it's not worth this situation, but yeah.
Cammy, sit down!
Let's see you going below 10,000. How are you doing?
Not good.
Oh, no.
Margaret, there's a red lever right there next to my seat. It says manual control. You see it?
Yeah.
Okay, on the count of 3, I want you to pull it up, turn it clockwise, push it back down. Ready? 1, 2, 3. It's okay. Ah, come on. Okay. Shit.
This is the reason why flight attendants shouldn't get out in this situation, because now that flight attendant is knocked out completely and is, yeah, just going to be a hazard in this situation.
Oh, Lord, we're coming out of 7,000. I see nothing but houses.
Evan, listen to me. When I say I want you to retract the flaps, retract the gears, trim us nose down, okay? But everything's going to be opposite, so make sure you trim us nose down.
Hey, trim down. What are you going to do?
Margaret, when I tell you I want you to push these forward, full power, full throttle, can you do that? Yeah. Okay, when I tell you...
Wait, sir. What are we doing? Why would I trim down?
So it is very good to see that Washington's character is so calm. You definitely need a calm head in this situation. So he has formulated a plan in his head. Now's the point that he's going, okay, well, this is what we're planning on doing. The discussion between whether or not it's a good idea, they don't have time to have that discussion. They also don't have time to do any checklists. So I know there's people that are probably thinking, in an emergency situation, there are checklists. There's normally checklists for, like, if you have one engine completely carked on you, or if you need to ditch an aircraft into water, like, normally these aircraft will have a procedure for those specific things. But in this scenario, it's an abnormal situation that they're in, that they won't actually have, 1, these checklists, and 2, a lot of time to figure out what's going on. So a lot of this is going to be one person who's in control trying to figure out the best way to figure out what's going on. If they have time to have the conversations, then they'll have the conversations, but it's mostly going to be trial and error throughout this entire process.
We're gonna roll it, okay?
What do you mean, roll it?
Gotta do something to stop this guy. Margaret, what's your son's name?
Trevor,
Say I love you, Trevor.
What?
The black box, say I love you, Trevor.
I love you, Trevor. You be a good boy, Mom.
Okay, so It's true the black boxes, or there's two. There's a voice recorder and a data recorder. Now the voice recorder normally has 3 channels. One channel will be for the cockpit, so we're able to hear everything that's happening in the cockpit. We hear alarms, that sort of stuff. So her saying, goodbye to her son will be on that cockpit. You then have 2 other channels. One channel is going to be for the pilot, one channel is going to be for the co-pilot, and that information will be heard on the voice recorder. The data recorder is just doing the data that's coming out of the systems that's going on. Again, the data will normally show if there's a hydraulic issue as well, depending on the aircraft, and generally that's the sort of thing that you get between the 2 recorders. Now, the voice recorders, they were only lasting for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then they would overwrite themselves just because of space. There are new recorders that have come out that are now 25-hour voice recorders. There's not a lot of aircraft that have them in there. The brand new ones that are coming out have them in there. The older ones are being slowly swapped over depending on which airline. But normally, if we do get anything from these aircraft, it's only about an hour worth of recordings. So yeah, fun fact.
Okay, here we go. I've got control.
Okay, so I'm just going to pause it here. The flight sequence leading to this point is what I'm going to call the flight sequence, and that's purely because from this point onwards is more so the crash sequence. So this inversion is where that crash sequence will essentially start from. So just keep in mind, crash sequence starts from here.
Oh, Lord Jesus!
All right, Evans, flat.
Flat!
Speed brakes.
Speed brake!
Margaret, power. Gear up.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure they filmed the cockpit sequence in an actual rig that inverted them, from memory from how they made this movie. The cabin, I'm not 100% sure, but I don't know, by the looks of it, it's like half looks like they did, half looks like they didn't, because there's like people kind of just randomly throwing their hands up or holding on to things. It's just really just weird in this scenario. So yeah, not sure if they actually did the cabin sequence on a rig to rotate it.
Shit! Oh, Lord Jesus, we're inverted!
Ryan, listen, we're level. We can maintain altitude like this.
Southjet 227, Atlanta Center. I see your position 4.5 miles southeast of the airport at 1,800. Are you okay?
Atlanta Center, this is Southjet 227. We are inverted. I repeat, we are inverted.
Southjet 227, did you say inverted?
We're losing oil pressure, pump!
Okay, so losing oil pressure, you would expect this. Now, this is because engines need oil to keep running. And what happens is the oil gets pumped through the engine while it's running and goes in a loop and ends up back into a reservoir. So the entrance back in is at the top of the oil reservoir and it gets pulled out from the bottom of the reservoir, so it goes through. When you're inverted, it means that because the oil's sunk essentially to that point where it's coming back in rather than pulled back out, it's now not pulling any of the oil from that reservoir. So that's why you're getting an oil pressure issue here.
Failure both engines!
We're all right. We're flying.
Okay, so that kid wasn't strapped in. One, that is, I don't know, really weird considering you've just had, strap yourself in from these flight attendants, unless the kid's unbuckled himself or the parents haven't even paid attention. Just super weird. The fact that this flight attendant's gone out of her seat to try and put the kid back in, also a weird scenario to put yourself into, and how easy it was to push this kid back into their seat. That's a bit weird.
Fire the left engine!
Put it out.
Okay, so what that co-pilot has pulled there is called a T-handle. So when there's a fire in an engine, you pull the T-handle to put out the fire. But when you do this, that engine is no longer available to you. So there's no power coming through, there's no fuel coming through. Basically, that engine is just inoperative from that point in time.
Look at me, I'm ready to go. Okay?
Atlanta, Southjet 227. Where's that airport?
227, it's 1 o'clock, 3 miles.
All right, we're not gonna make that. Our engines are burning up.
I see a field and a road ahead of us. We're gonna set it down there.
Roger, 227.
Oh no, fire in the right now!
Evan, we're coming back around. Margaret, I want you to hit full power, full throttle. You understand?
Okay, so you've just seen the co-pilot essentially just pull that second T-handle, which means technically they've got no engines and no power, and okay, so that doesn't make sense in the sequence. Also, the fact that they've been flying inverted for this long wouldn't be a thing. So the way that commercial airliners are built and their wings are built is they're built to increase lift over the wings, which is what ends up getting you into the air. So this is a really, really quick way of explaining aerodynamics, but essentially you need the airflow over the wings to help create lift. Now, when the aircraft is inverted, the shape of the wings is different and it doesn't actually sustain the amount of lift that's required to stay in the air. Now, there are some aircraft that are built that can happen, and they are predominantly aircraft that are built for aerobatics. But commercial airliners are not built for aerobatics, so therefore you wouldn't actually be able to maintain this inverted state for a very long time. So far, they're been inverted for a very long time. So yeah, this is not very realistic in that sense. So you've got that and the engines.
Here we go.
Evans, speed brakes.
Speed brakes!
Flaps full.
Flaps full!
Remember how I said that flight attendant's gonna be in the way?
We're losing the left engine!
Southjet 227, I see you descending through 1,000. You concur?
Margaret, full power.
Yeah, remember they technically don't have any engines at this point, so it's weird they have engines. They've shown the EGT, which is just like engine temperature essentially increasing, but both engines are still on, and then above that is actually engine power where it's sitting at. So the fact that they're still technically both running is not correct in what this situation should be.
We lost the left engine!
Let it roll.
We're losing power in the right! We lost all power!
Are we gliding?
Okay, so at this point, they've lost all their engines, which they should have had earlier. But anyway, there's no sound of the engines. So when he says they're gliding, they are essentially just gliding. And what you do is you trim the aircraft to the appropriate glide slope. So there is a glide slope that for every aircraft type, which pilots should be aiming for if they are in this situation where they do have no engines. So that is, I'm assuming, where Denzel Washington's character is saying we're going to trim this aircraft for that glide slope. You can hear that the too low terrain warning is coming back on. That is not because they're really low to the ground. It's because they're really low to the ground and there's no landing gear down. If the landing gear was down, it'd be a different story. We wouldn't hear that too low terrain.
Glide. Pitch for glide.
Too low terrain.
So this part of the movie cinematically is actually really good because it would be slow-mo for these pilots. Like, you're coming into the ground. There's no other option, but it's just how you bring it into the ground. It's going to be the difference. I've also noticed that there's actually winglets on this aircraft. So those little bits that come up from the wingtip, the MD-80s don't actually have that. So that's just a difference that I think they've made for the movie. they just don't actually have them. So not exactly accurate to what the aircraft type is.
40, 30, 20,
Brace.
10. Minimum.
Brace for impact.
Minimum.
Okay, so you can see that they're coming in and it looks like their nose is pitched down as they're coming in. What you would expect pilots to do if they are bringing it in, and this would be for ditching as well, is to be lifting the nose up and like trying to land it on the belly to try and like skid it across rather than putting it nose in, because it's a safer way to land and it's more likely you won't completely destroy your aircraft. So at this point, I don't actually think that's happened, even though he did say think about the pitch. I don't actually think that's happened in this sequence at all. So yeah, he's knocked himself out. Again, would see that happening. You've come in hard. If you've got your nose down lower. I mean, the cockpit pretty much gets it all like that.
I got the pilot. Somebody give me a hand here.
Okay, so you can see that it looks like the first officer has also hit their head really hard. I don't know if they're alive or not, but again, it matches what you would expect, hitting the dash or just hitting something as they've come in. And then you've got the head flight attendant. She's made her way to the back. I think she must have gotten herself out, so obviously she's been fine. Her injuries are not as bad as I expected, but that other flight attendant that was out of her seatbelt, she's been essentially crushed by the broken aircraft. Again, I could see it. That could happen. Like, it's not weird in any sense about that happening. Okay, so I'm just going to pause it there because from what it looks like, this aircraft's only broken in two spots. That is where that forward door is, where an entrance would normally be, so the cockpit's separated, and it looks like it's broken where the wings should be. Now, I can't actually see that wing that should be on that side, to that left wing. It's not actually there. I don't know where it is. I can see the right wing because I can see the winglet in the top corner, but I can't actually see that left wing, which I think is very weird. You then have fire right at the back of the aircraft, which doesn't make sense because I wouldn't expect a fire there because you don't have any fuel there or don't have anything that's really flammable up that end. So that's a bit odd. And the way that this split is broken, like the way this aircraft's broken up into pieces is more indicative of a slower accident that pitched nose up, like they've come in with that pitched nose up and like glided it along. That is like, it doesn't look as intense as I expected it to be. Like, I know the people in white in this sequence are the people that were at the church, so they're helping survivors, and yes, I do believe they probably would have been survivors, but I still think that there should have been more pieces of this aircraft. So it's a bit strange from my point of view. And then you've got him seeing what looks like to be that tip of the church that they hit with the wingtip and smoke, and not much of the aircraft. So not really much to say about that other than there's a fair few people like walking really normally. So I can't really say much about that. It doesn't really give much information in this instance. And that is the end of the scene. So, yeah. Okay. It has been really interesting. And we'll go through our 4 main things and give it out of 5 stars and see how we go. So let me bring up my sheet. Okay, so first we've got flight sequence. Now, if you remember the flight sequence, I said is up to that point where they get inverted. I actually have no issue with the flight sequence. Like, the CRM was great. The conversations were great. It's what you would have expected. The conversations between the people in the pilots and ATC. The troubleshooting idea, like, I would have expected that. The only thing that is weird in that sequence is the those handles that they pull to go back to manual. There's actually not in the MD-80. So look, I'm still going to give it 5, just because, look, the rest of it was actually really good and probably on the better end than what most movies are. You then have the crash sequence. So this is the point that the aircraft gets inverted. Now, pretty much nothing is right from the point that it gets inverted. So this entire crash sequence, like, you've put the T-handles for the engines, but the engines are still running. You've flown inverted for a very long time, which wouldn't be a thing. You've then re-rotated the aircraft back to the correct orientation. But in that correct orientation, you've come in and not put it down how I would have expected, so the right way. But then also when it was inverted, like, it didn't look like people were actually inverted, like the people inside the cabin were inverted, just like little things like that. And the fact that the kid could be pushed back into their seat and clipped back in. So crash sequence, I'm going to give a 1 because, again, I think that's just more this movie idea. Like, in that Alaskan airline flight that it's loosely based off, they did actually invert it, but the inversion wasn't that long because it couldn't sustain flight. But also, we don't know why they inverted it, and it could have been because of this reason, like wanting to try and attempt to, keep it flying. But it's just not what you would expect. You then have wreckage. Wreckage, I'm giving a 1. I don't know where that whole wing's gone, but that's not correct. You would expect the other wing to be there, and you can't even see where the wing was attached. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Especially since that's the wing that didn't actually hit anything. It was the other wing that hit stuff. So, yeah, that's definitely a 1. And the fire at the back doesn't make sense. And then you've got survivability. Now, survivability, I'm going to give it a 3. I'm going to give it a 3 because you don't really understand, or you don't really get given much information about what's happening. So yes, there would be survivors, but some of the survivors' injuries don't look as bad as what I expected it would be for a landing like that. So I'm just going to give it a 3. There's not enough information to make me think that it should go up any higher than a 3. So you've got 5, 1, 1, 3. So that's a 10. I actually expected, I don't know, 10 out of 20. I actually expected flight to be a lot better than that, but I guess that whole wreckage crash sequence, like, was completely out of it. So yeah, this is very much a cinema movie. Flight sequence, though, spot on. But yeah, the rest of it's kind of all over the place. So yeah, cinema. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching today. Do you agree with what I've said? If you do, please put them in the comments below. If you don't, still put it in the comments below. But yeah, very much thank you for watching, and if you have any other movies that you'd like me to go through, please put them in the comments below. Thanks, and have a great day. See ya.